Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to be listing off my top 10 for the best backs in bodybuilding. This request obviously won the poll, and I hope you guys enjoy my list. Before I begin, I want to say that there were so many guys out there to choose from for beyond the top 5, and of course this video is going to be influenced by my own personal opinion. Also, if you guys could take a quick moment to like and subscribe, it would really mean a lot to me and would be very, very appreciated. Anyways, with that all being said, let's get into today's video. Starting off this list is Derek Lunsford, a promising new open competitor who placed second at the Mr. Olympia in 2022. He shocked the world with his mind-blowing back poses, and I'll tell you that I was extremely impressed. His back opens up very well, and he has great overall development, and I think that he has the best back in bodybuilding right now. I'd like to see him add a little bit more mass to his back in general, and perhaps a little bit more conditioning, and if he does that, he'd really look like a mini Phil Heath. Lunsford has great shape and flow and definitely has one of the best backs today. Jean-Pierre Fuchs placed in the ninth place spot, having a world-class back that rivaled top Olympia contenders during his prime. His back was extremely wide, and I remember seeing his 1997 Mr. Olympia showing, thinking that his back was just as good as Dorian Yates's. At that show, he had really good conditioning, and it shows through these pictures. And I mean, wow, you can't say that that back is not one of the best. Now, he rarely duplicated this condition and most oftentimes showed up with a rather watery back, and for that reason, he isn't placing any higher. But like I said, he had an amazing back, and I feel it would be wrong to not have him up here. In eighth place is eight-time Mr. Olympia winner Lee Haney, who had one of the best backs during his time. He had a very, very dense back, featuring well-developed traps, lats, and a good lower back region. His physique was extremely balanced, and he was consistent with his conditioning, and his back, of course, was no exception. Haney had great aesthetics and symmetry too, and I personally really like his back poses. There were a few other guys who could have made this spot, like Sean Ray or Orville Burke, but personally, I believe that Haney's balanced conditioning and mass outshined those two competitors. MOMO BENAZIZA takes the 7th place spot, having a phenomenal dense back. He was a shorter guy standing at just 5'2", but his height didn't take away from his massive back. He had crazy development in the lower back area and a crazy Christmas tree to go along with it as well. His traps were extremely defined and his conditioning overall was great. This conditioning edge is definitely what beats the other guys before him, but he can't place any higher due to his shorter stature. Overall, though, BENAZIZA had an insane back regardless of his height. In 6th place, we have Samir Banu, one of my personal favorite bodybuilders of all time. At his Olympia win in 1983, he showcased the best back the bodybuilding world had seen up until that point. It's like he took BENAZIZA's back, scaled it up, and added even more condition and mass. He had one of, if not the best Christmas trees in bodybuilding, and the symmetry in his rear double bicep shot is just insane. I personally believe he had one of the most aesthetic backs of all time, and had the perfect balance between mass, conditioning, and flow. Joel Stubbs takes the 5th place spot, featuring a crazy 3D symmetrical back. He was tall, ridiculously wide, and some of his gym pictures make him look like he had the best back ever. Unfortunately, he wasn't as good on stage as he was in the gym. I mean, come on guys, who would have thought? But, in some shots, his relatively higher lat insertions made his back not look as good. Furthermore, while his upper back was, really dense and developed, his lower back appeared rather lackluster in comparison. Regardless, though, he had a huge back in terms of size, with condition to match, and he belongs here at the start of the top 5. In 4th place is Kai Greene, and I mean, come on guys, what more do I need to say? He had immense detail and mass in the rear double bicep shot, and that shot is one of the best ever. Crazy thickness and some of the best lat insertions ever too. There really isn't anything to knock him down for. The only thing stopping him from advancing would be his weaker traps. As you can see, they look rather small and underdeveloped in comparison to the rest of his back. Also, in the rear lat spread, Kai seemed to lose a lot of detail throughout his back, which definitely hurt him. Overall, though, he had an Olympia-winning caliber of back, but unfortunately, he had to go up against a competitor with a back just a little bit more dominant. Phil Heath definitely outshined Kai during their careers in the back department, and looking at these pictures, it is clear that he had a mind-blowing back. His back was reminiscent of like a turtle shell and appeared to pop off his body with all those 3D round muscle bellies. While he didn't have the widest of backs, which definitely holds him back from taking the second or first place spot, he had the density and perfect development everywhere, not to mention extreme mass. Every Olympia, it seemed like his back was getting better and better, and he never came in off from behind. I can't really say Phil Heath had any flaws necessarily, but he did have a weakness, which was his narrowness through the clavicle, which of course impacted the width of his back. Anyways, though, Phil Heath had an incredible back and rightfully deserves this top 3 spot. Ronnie Coleman, the absolute legend, takes the second place spot. Some of you may be shocked that he isn't first place, but let me explain. He had the best back in the world in some shows, like for instance the 2003 or the 1999 Mr. Olympia, where in my opinion he was completely unbeatable. However, some years his back seemed a little bit downsized or lacked symmetry, and that definitely hurt him in his placings on this list. Regardless, he had one of the thickest backs of all time, featuring perfect width in the rear double and rear lat, and of course always had great conditioning. Personally, I prefer Coleman's back over the first place finisher, but objectively, I cannot deny the fact that his lack of consistency hurts him. As many of you guys may have suspected, Dorian Yates takes this first place spot with just an absolutely outstanding back. Absolutely perfect development with by far the best conditioning in the back of all time. He had a grainy quality to his back and never ever came in off. His consistency alone was enough to push him over Ronnie, but his back too is arguably better. He wasn't the most symmetrical guy, but had development that rivaled Ronnie Coleman's and conditioning that was overall superior in my opinion. He was a master of the mandatory poses, and it clearly showed when he hit the rear double or the rear lat spread. The top 3, and one could argue the top 5, could be switched, and a solid argument could be made for anyone's rearrangement. I definitely think that it comes down to my opinion at a point, and I'd like to know what you guys think down below. With that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Liking and subscribing is always appreciated, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you for watching.